You're listening to the Your Story Within podcast with Dr. Jeannine Bennett, a writing coach and author with 5 published books to her name and a few more in the works. Through this podcast, Dr. Bennett aims to help listeners tell their story within and shares all the industry secrets of self-publishing and book marketing. And now, here's your host, Dr. Jeannine Bennett.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 31 of Your Story Within podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the new year and new writing goals. And we have with us today, Melanie Lemus. Hi, Melanie. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. How you doing?
Good, good. It's been a bit crazy already.
I know. This new year is off to a running start.
Yes. And I always tell my kids, when you face challenges, keep your head up because there's nothing so difficult in life that you can't, overcome. And so for Christmas, they gave me this wonderful mug. Now I have 2 older children friends that are in their 30s, have their own kids. And then I have a 17-year-old who will be 18. So they got together and got their mother this gift that says, I don't know if you can see that. No matter how hard life gets, at least you don't have ugly children. I was like, okay, now you know what kind of personalities they have, right?
That's awesome. I need to get that for my parents.
There you go. Team up with your sisters.
Yeah. It's funny.
All right. So, Melanie, can you believe it? It's January 2022.
I
What happened?
thought New Year's was like 2 days ago. I don't know how this happened. It's already like flying by.
I know. It's just flying by, right? Oh,
Did
my
you
gosh.
set any New Year's resolutions?
Yes, I did. And today we're going to talk about some of them from the author side because I forgot to share. I just published a new book, another one.
Yay!
So, Knowing and Following, Living a Life of Freedom. So, I was able to get that book done and published in December, in time for the end of the new year, or last year, 2021. But I have a goal to write 5 books this year. So we'll see if I can do it. I'm going to follow my own advice that I'm going to give you guys in this podcast. So I will keep you updated on my progress too. So hold me accountable, friends. All
Excellent.
right. So, Melanie, we already kind of talked about what we're going to share today, SMART goals. I think it was episode 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was right at the beginning of this podcast. But that one I think was more focused towards setting goals for the job search.
Right.
But this year we should kind of tell our audience this year we're splitting because you have 2 passions, the job market, like that thing, helping people find jobs,
side, work
the
side,
career side. Yeah, and then the writing side. And so you actually are going to be launching a new podcast called Job Talk with Jeannine that's going to be focusing on the job side. And then this podcast, Your Story Within, is going to shift to more of a writer-centric focus. So starting this year with this episode, we are going to start talking about goals as it pertains to writing or authoring a book.
That's right. That's right. You're so good. That's why you are my strategic communication specialist because you are top notch. Don't anyone steal her away. I'm telling you, she keeps me in line and she just remembers all this stuff. I don't even know how she does it. Well, actually, she's going to tell you how she does it with some of the tools she uses.
Yes.
But anyway, all right. So, Melanie, we talked about SMART goals last year in episode 2. But can you remind people of what that actually means? What does SMART even mean?
Absolutely. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. These are the 5 categories or the 5 characteristics that you want your goals to have. And we're going to go through and explain each of those in depth and then relate it specifically to writing. So with the new year comes new writing goals. The SMART goal aspect hasn't changed. And you will still want to design goals that will be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Awesome. Melanie, so let's jump in. Let's just start discussing goals so that we can help these writers reach their desired outcomes this year.
Yeah,
And
talk to me about specific goals.
yes, and I got to put my ears on, and I'm going to have to listen to this podcast to keep me accountable too, because I'm right there with you, friends. I'm an author. I just told you I'm on the hook now. I said it publicly. I'm going to do 5 books.
Yes.
I got 1 done last year. So let's see how I'm going to make that happen. And I'm going to do that by starting with setting specific, realistic writing goals. I know you're probably thinking, is that realistic, Jeannine? But yes, it is. I've cleared my schedule. I've gotten things taken care of. It is realistic. But if your goals are unrealistic, they won't be achievable, folks, and you'll become overwhelmed. So I was watching this masterclass. I don't know if you've seen that. Not that I'm doing a plug for masterclass or anything, but they do have some amazing people come on and talk about different areas of their expertise. And so I always look up the writers. And years ago, I watched a couple of children's authors, and for children's books I want to write, and then some others. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. So a recent masterclass post that I read said, don't let your passion for finishing your novel cause you to push yourself so hard and set goals that are simply impossible. Because the only thing you're going to do is frustrate yourself, overwhelm yourself, and feed the doubt that us as authors tend to have sometimes anyway. So you don't want to do that. Especially if you have a full-time job. You don't want to set a goal of, I'm going to write a novel in a month, or I'm going to do 10,000 words in a day. Now, I personally know, actually, people that can write a novel in a month, even shorter. And that can write 10,000 words in a day. I myself have written more than 10,000 words in a day. But being realistic, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. We have a life. One of the things I learned last year was, don't put your life on hold, sitting in a seat, typing and typing and typing all day long, and then sacrificing time with your family, sacrificing your health. Last year, as Melanie knows, health was a big thing for me. I focused on getting in shape, toning up, breathing, and I got to tell you, it made my writing better. When I had, what do they say, when you exercise, Melanie, you get more oxygen to your brain.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes, and when you have more oxygen in your brain, you tend to be a little more creative. But anyway, so set realistic goals. Be responsible with those goals. Don't overload yourself. Okay. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, but we'll just move on because, me and my tangents, you know how I can be, Melanie. So Melanie, how can we set some realistic goals? What can we do?
Right. So specific and realistic. One thing that I wanted to touch upon, like with what you were just talking about, is for many people, many of our audience, writing is a passion project. This is what they want to do because they love to do it. And you don't want to set goals that make you end up hating writing, right? You don't want to set goals that make it miserable because it's going to ruin it for you, right? So, one way, getting back to setting specific goals, consider setting writing goals that you can accomplish step by step, one at a time. In his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about creating daily habits that'll help you reach your goals rather than burn yourself out early with ambitious expectations for yourself. So some examples of realistic goals that writers can set for themselves are: write 1,500 words every day, write for 3 hours every day, or 1 hour if that's all you can squeeze in, or 30 minutes. That adds up. If you have a super busy household and 3 kids that you got to get ready for school, and then you work during the day, and 30 minutes is all you can dedicate to it, that's better than 0. And 30 minutes is going to add up. And at the end of the month, that's 15 hours of writing. So write for however long you can every day at a scheduled time. Don't just be like, okay, today I'm going to get in 30 minutes. I don't know where, but I'm going to fit it in. Schedule it. If this is something that you want to achieve, say at 12:30 after, lunch, I'm going to sit down for 30 minutes. And then at 1 o'clock, I'll get back to whatever. So, and then, or another goal could be finish 1 chapter every week. So you want small goals, like a daily goal, then a weekly goal, and then a monthly goal. You'll see that monthly goal is broken down into bite-sized chunks that don't seem overwhelming. So, like you were saying, I could write a book in a month. It's like, at the beginning of the month, you're like, this is too big. I can't eat the whole steak in one bite. So you break it down and, okay, I want to write a 15 chapter book, right? So I'm going to write half of a chapter each day for that month. And then, you're done by the end
Voila.
of the month. So just break it up into specific things, and not just like, I'm going to write, like you said, your general goal. I'm going to write 15 books this year. You're going to write 5 books this year. Jeannine's like, no, 5 books this year. And I know for a fact that you've broken that down into bite-sized pieces for yourself. And what
Yeah.
that looks like will be different for everybody. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is creating measurable goals. Can you tell us how our goals would be measurable?
Yes. Before I move on, Melanie brings up a good point. Well, she made me laugh so much. I don't know if you heard me snort just a second ago, but yeah, 15 book. Yeah, no, Melanie, 5 is already my limit. So sorry for the snort on the screen, folks.
I
But
didn't hear it, so you're probably safe.
but I wanted to touch on one thing before we move on to creating measurable goals, and that is when you overwhelm yourself and you don't give yourself enough time when life happens, then it is going to throw you off, and then you are going to be frustrated. And I'll give you a perfect example. I was telling Melanie before the show that my son, my 17-year-old, has a crown, and we've been dealing with this temporary crown issue for months. It's been ridiculous. But anyway, this morning, right before we were, headed out the door, I was taking him to school. He screams from the bathroom to inform me that his temporary crown has now fallen out of his mouth, went down the drain, and
Oh,
that
no.
he needed to catch it in the drain catch. So don't run any water. And he's panicking. And I'm like, okay. I panicked for like 2 seconds. Like, I can't believe this. The frustration of the whole process, because it's just been an ongoing thing. And then I had to take a deep breath. And I heard my husband from the other room say, just take the kid to school. I'll do the plumbing part. And when you come back, I'll have the temporary crown. Not that he's going to put it back in his mouth anyway, because it's now gone down the sink. But point being is life happens and
Yeah.
crazy stuff happens when you least
Yeah.
expect it. And if you overload yourself with, writing, and no time for when the crazy stuff happens, then it's not going to be good. And you are going to lose your passion for writing, because you're going to
Mhm.
start feeling this uphill battle all the time.
Yeah, and just discouragement. If you don't
Yeah. Yeah.
schedule in time for a little bit of elasticity, because life is going to happen, then you're
Yes.
going to feel like further
Yes.
and further and further behind. So you need to create that space. And you know what? If you end up not needing that extra space, then that's either extra time off to do something you love or more time for writing. So
Right.
build in those little
Exactly.
buffer zones for sure.
Exactly. Okay. Now we can talk about creating measurable goals. All right. So creating measurable goals is critical. As authors, writers, wanting to be authors, it's critical. You have to build that time in, that measurable goals in. From my experience, I can tell you that smaller goals will pay off in the long term. Like Melanie said, if you write a little bit here and there every day, by the end of the month, you could have a book. It just depends on how many
Mhm.
chapters are in a book. My books are smaller. I tend to do 15 chapters. I just finished another book by a fiction author, and her books are 70 chapters long. So could I
Wow.
do 70 chapters? No, I could not do an 80 to 100,000 word novel in a month. I could not do that. But could I do 25,000 words? Sure, for a 15 chapter book of the type that I write, nonfiction, absolutely. So anyway, measurable goals. So writing goals will be easier to track if they have deadlines associated with them. So create goals that you can track, and check them off as you go. I don't know about you. I could probably speak for Melanie, but I'll let her share on herself. But I'm a list maker. I love
Yes.
to, have this list and check it off. Sometimes I'll even, I got color coded pens. Here's my green
Yeah.
one. I got purple. I love it. I think that's the creative side of me. And I also like to feel accomplished. So I like to know that I'm doing stuff, I'm knocking things off my list, checking
Yes.
them off. How about you, Mel? You like to do that?
Oh my goodness, we are birds of a feather because I'm like chuckling to myself over here because what I'm about to share, because we're gonna switch over to tracking your progress. And what I'm about to share is all color coded and it's all a checklist. I'm very much I love checklists. I love seeing that I've made progress. You know what I mean? Like I like crossing things off. It's so satisfying. You can actually see this is one of 3 calendars that I keep going on. Actually 4. I keep 4 different calendars and I'll explain it. But this is for my school. And as you can see, the days are crossed off right here. And all my assignments and stuff like that are written on there. But yes, and they're it's all color coded as well. So you'll see that in a second. But
I knew it because I know you so well. I just wanted to hear
yes,
you say it out
yeah.
loud. Yeah. So, um, and she's right. Melanie is great at making lists of tasks with deadlines, then checking them off as she goes. I've witnessed her in action. Um,
We're sending you checklists.
so as
Jeannie's like, thanks.
as an author, to help me stay focused, what I do is I make a goal of writing a certain word count every day. If for some reason I don't want to do the word count, sometimes I'll also do page numbers. You know, how many pages, excuse me, do I want to have at the end of the month? Do I want to get that chapter done? Do I need to do more research? So to be realistic, I'll say at the end of the month, I want to have this number of pages done, or maybe even a chapter. I set some goals. And then I establish a time frame, like I just said, by the end of the month. You could say by the end of the day, by the end of the week, by the end of the month. It's really whatever you feel most comfortable with. We're going to talk about being accountable. When we go through that, think about how you're going to create these measurable goals, because if reality is that you're so much the creative spirit that you just throw caution to the wind and you just write, and you don't keep yourself accountable on what you're actually doing, that could cause a problem. So, pay attention when we talk about being accountable, and then go back to this section about creating measurable goals. What's going to be, like we said in the beginning, specific, realistic, and then now creating those measurable goals. And
Yep.
then, I like to look at things as projects. So books are projects to me. And maybe that's from being in the business world as long as I've been in, working for, as a consultant, doing projects for many different clients.
Mhm.
I like to think of things as projects. So when are my projects due? How many projects do I have? I know other authors that write several books at once. I know myself, I can't do that. I would confuse myself, especially as I decide to move into the fiction realm. I would just mess up all my characters. It would be terrible. Um, so I know I can't do that, but there's people out there that tackle many different projects. Melanie, she's going to school, she's working for me, she's doing these podcasts, she's got a lot going. She homeschools. I mean, the girl, no wonder she has 4 calendars, and
Right.
she's going to talk about that. So, that brings me to the next topic, where Melanie is going to jump in and talk about tracking your progress and what she does.
Yes. So
So,
we are actually on letter A of SMART, which is achievable goals. And how do we know if we are achieving them is because we track our progress, right? So a couple of ways that I do that is through a calendar. I write my goals on each day and then I mark them off as I go. Like I said, I have this one up here for school. I have a large desk calendar for vision to purpose, and I have a I use Google Calendars on my phone because that's what our school uses for all of our classes and stuff like that. All the links are on there. And then another thing that I've used is some people use journaling. You can do like bullet journaling or just traditional journaling. You can document how you're doing, how you feel about your goals. If you feel like the goals I set are just really overwhelming me, or it's like I don't feel challenged. So if you journal, that's a really great way to reflect on the goals, and it helps you fine tune them for further success. So the one thing that I wanted to share with our audience is called um, it is called time blocking. And so my sister, I have 2 older sisters. My sister Becky is probably the most efficient person when it comes to time blocking. She's been doing this for years, and finally I listened to her. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So this is what my time blocking schedule looks like right here. This is a document that I actually created myself because I couldn't find anything that I really liked online. And Jeannine's going to share on the screen in just a second. But oh yeah, you can share it now. That's fine. They'll be able to see it easier. So you can see on the top left, I have a to-do list, and that's where I write all the things that need to get taken care of for this week. Like last week, I have DMV paperwork. My daughter is getting her learner's permit soon, so I have some DMV paperwork that I have to submit. I have to do certain feedback for something. I have to schedule a referral. I have to RSVP to clinics for school, different things like that, packages that I have to mail, whatever that is. Down there, I have my morning routine. I have a list of things that I want to accomplish every morning within between 6 and 9. That's when I do my morning routine. Lüften, for those of you that are looking at that word being like, what is that? That's a German word for airing out the house. So for 10 minutes every morning, I open up all my windows and I get fresh air in the house. I don't care how cold it is, but I want like the germs and the stagnation to leave. And so that's one of the things I do every morning. It just makes me feel better. And then I go through and I look at my calendar. I take my work calendar, I take my school calendar, I take my daughter's calendar, I take my calendar, appointments and all that. And I write it in there in 15-minute increments. And as you can see at the bottom of that screen, we have a black screen.
Oh, we lost our
What
screen.
happened?
Hold
What
on.
happened?
I'm not sure.
At the bottom of that document in color, you'll see routine. I write my routine in pink. I write school stuff in blue, work stuff in green, church stuff in purple, and any appointments in red. And then in the bottom left corner, you see a little chart where it has the days of the week and then spaces. That's my goal tracker. And so I'll write in the long vertical spaces at the top, I'll write my goals like exercising daily, taking my supplements, completing my morning routine, or whatever I'm trying to accomplish that week. And then I can see what days I've made hit the mark and what days I haven't. Now this is very small text or font, which is fine for me. I can see very small font. It doesn't bother me. But for those of you that would prefer something larger, if Jeannine would scroll down, I created this in a 2-page format. So you can actually print it out front and back and do it in like a 3-ring binder. And so it's 2 pages for every week. And so we are going to provide those documents, and I'll take out, the personal stuff on the first one. And I'll make it editable so that it'll be a Word document. So you can go in and type in what your morning routine looks like, or what color coding you want to do at the bottom. So we'll provide that document for all of our listeners if that's something that you want to try. But yeah, the time blocking really helps me track my progress, because at the end of the week, I can see, at the beginning of the week, I can see, all right, this is what I need to ramp myself up for. Okay, Monday, it's going to be a busy day. We're recording podcasts. We're doing this, that, and the other. And then I can see also, this is great for people who have full-time jobs, have families, and they want to find those little pockets of time where they can write. So when I look at my schedule here, I can easily see, well, look at that. On Saturday, I have a whole afternoon that I could put in a few hours of writing if that's what I wanted to do, right? So once you put in all the stuff that you have to do, then you can find little pockets of time for the things that you want to do. So that is tracking our progress. The next one you had touched upon is being accountable. And this is a really important one. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes. So friends, if you really want to achieve your goals, they must become a priority. If not, every time you have a writing block, which, hey, happens for writers, authors, there's just some days you just don't feel like writing. I guarantee when those days happen, if you don't make your writing a priority and do these things that we're telling you to do, holding yourself accountable, then you're going to make excuses. It is so easy to say, well, think about working out. I just talked about health and fitness. Oh, I'm from Wisconsin, but I don't like cold weather. I've lived in Virginia Beach now for over 30 years. And the thought of it being, 31 degrees out there, well, what is it? 38 now. It's warmed up to 38 degrees. I have my big sweater on. And the thought of actually doing my 2-mile walk/run today is, probably not going to happen because I don't like cold weather. I'm going to have to hold myself accountable and figure out if I'm not going to do that, what am I going to do indoors that's going to help with my cardio or whatever. So it's the same with writing, right? It's the same with writing. What are you going to do when you don't feel like writing? You got to hold yourself accountable. So build some of those in. as well. When you're creating measurable goals and you're being specific, maybe put a disclaimer in there. If I don't feel like writing today, or the writing's not coming easy, what else can I do, so that you can keep moving forward. You will, like I said, you will have to hold yourself accountable if you really want to be an author. If you have a hard time keeping yourself accountable, then find somebody that can help you. Get a friend. Like I have Melanie, she holds me accountable on a lot of things, like this podcast. Find a writing group. Writing groups are great for critiquing your writing, but also for holding you accountable. If you say you're going to do something in this writing group, they're going to say, how are you doing? What's your progress? They're going to help you be accountable. And then in doing so, again, you're going to, one, do it because you're holding yourself accountable, but you're also going to meet those time-bound goals that are the time-bound piece that Melanie talked about with the SMART goals. If you're saying you're going to do this specific task of writing and you're going to do it by this date, or once a month, whatever you set to hold yourself accountable, you're actually also ensuring that you're going to meet it by whatever date you set. So you're kind of doing two things at once. You're being accountable, but you're also meeting that other aspect of the SMART goal concept by meeting the time-bound aspect as well.
Yeah.
So did I cover enough, Melanie, in that? I feel like
I think so. We talked about, you talked about being accountable. We also need to talk about finding and maintaining your motivation.
Yes, that's good.
I'm one of those people, like we've talked about working out. I'm one of those people where, like right now I could think about it and be like, working out, like I really should start. It's really important. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to start. And then tomorrow morning comes around and I'm like warm and toasty in my flannel sheets. And I'm like, it's not as important to me at this moment as it was yesterday. Right. So I lost my motivation. So with writing, and we are kind of like, I just want to acknowledge, we are sort of going into these like sub bullets. We are going to go back and touch on the other, we talked about specific, measurable, and achievable. We are going to talk about relevant and time bound, and we're kind of doing some little like subcategories here as well that are also important. So finding your motivation. How do we find our motivation, and how do we keep it? I think that's the hard part for me.
Yeah. So for every author, we all have our own reasons for becoming an author or writing, whether you're an author of books, or a blog writer, or no, not everybody has to be an author of books, but maybe you write poetry, maybe you're doing screenplays, maybe you are writing novels, maybe you're just a blogger or content marketing expert. All of this involves writing, is my point. I talked about that master class earlier, and the last thing I took away from that master class I was talking about was knowing why you love writing, and tapping into that passion to keep you motivated when you're stuck, and trust me, I'm probably preaching to the choir here when I say we all get stuck at some point.
Yeah.
Writing, we all have great ideas and that creativity kicks in, but there's times where it's like nothing is coming. I don't know even where I'm taking this. I should just stop. Well, when those times hit, where do you dig deep to find that motivation? You don't want to lose those small moments. You don't want to have those small moments and decide to quit writing just because you have a down day, or you got to dig deep and find what motivated you to write in the beginning. Why did you write a book on that topic? And I'll tell you from personal experience, my first book still is in the works. It's called Shine. And I've rewritten it 3 times. I lost motivation. I started the book for the wrong reasons. Lost motivation along the way. 5 years later, folks, 5 years later, I'm finally getting back to it. It'll be one of the books that I publish this year. Hold me to that. It is going to be a book I will publish this year. But I had to do some soul searching. What was my motivation to writing that book in the first place? Peel back the onion for some selfish reasons, I'll be honest, and focus on the deep down inside stuff. And now I'm there. and now I can, pull that motivation out, and now I'm moving forward. You're going to have to do that too. You're going to have to figure out what's going to work for you. And Melanie, what ways do you keep yourself motivated when you are writing? Because you do a lot of writing as well.
So I really like rewarding myself. Some people are you and I've actually had this conversation actually in regard to working out. And this is so funny. Poor Jeannine. She asked me, she was like, "Hey, I got this new like workout program. Do you want to do it with me? We'll hold each other accountable." And I said, "Nope." And she goes, "What?" And I go, "Jeannine, I know myself. External accountability from like accountability partners, that does not motivate me. I've always been a person where I'm like, uh, sorry, what you think of me doesn't matter. It's what I think of myself that matters, right? So I just know myself that that's not a motivating factor for me. If you have felt like I always fail my, my accountability partners, or I always fail this, uh, you haven't found the right mode of motivation for yourself. So for me, a reward system is motivating in a way. Another thing that is also very motivating for me is um, achievement. I like achieve not accolades, but I like feeling accomplished. I like setting goal. Like I said, it's like the check. It goes back to the
Checklist.
checklist. I like
Right.
setting goals and I like accomplishing it. I feel like that is the motivator for me. It's all within myself. It's like what I think of myself, what I've accomplished.
Right.
Um, but yeah, with the like reward system, it'll help you motivate yourself to your long-term goals. If you reach a small goal like reaching your word count for the week, reward yourself with your favorite coffee or tea, or from like a specialty shop, or go get a massage, or buy yourself that like lumbar support for your chair so writing is more comfortable. Like, yeah, they whatever it is, like something. And I do like to reward myself in a way that pertains to what I am doing. So when, for example, when I got this amazing scholarship to the school I'm going to, I because I had to like write for it and do whatever, I went and bought myself this under the desk bike. I have two desks here. I have a sitting one, which even when I'm sitting, it's like good for my posture, right? And then I have this so that I can like sit down and ride while I'm in school. So that was like a reward for me. I was like, you know what? I worked really hard. I got this scholarship. I'm saving a bunch of money, and I'm going to be sitting at that computer for like 8 hours straight, 2 days a week. So I got something that would kind of reward me and keep me motivated towards those goals. So that's another way to find your motivation. What about you, Jeannine?
Well, I tend to surround myself with positive things. I can be really hard on myself sometimes. And I need to have sticky notes posted everywhere or whatever. So I reward myself. I do like the reward system with things that are positive to remind me that I've succeeded. So I'll have a little plaque like this. I have one over here that reminds me that things don't happen overnight.
Oh, I like that.
Um,
That's great for goal setting. You should have had that in the background.
I should have, right? You didn't tell me, Melanie. I told you, you gotta keep me, you know. Anyway, but I do stuff like that. And then I have funny things like, the cup from my kids and so I don't take myself so seriously. So when I'm beating myself up and I say, "Oh, you're horrible. Nobody's ever going to read your book. What are you thinking? Why did you write this? It's all terrible." I look at things that make me laugh. Or I call Melanie and she tells me I'm crazy and
I talk you off the ledge and give you some
knocks me off the
perspective.
ledge, tells me to pick up my big girl panties and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then I remember, who's my support system. So
Mhm,
Melanie says she doesn't need the accountability partner in certain things.
mhm,
For me, I like to go back to people who I know are successful. So one of my mentors I've shared many times is, a fantastic writer, and she's been at this for 20, I think 6 years now, 25,
yeah.
26 years. And I'll reach out to her and say, "Okay, I feel like quitting and giving up." And then she always reminds me of the story of, "Hey, I started when it was traditional writing, and there was no Amazon. And after 5 years, Jeannine, of rejection letters, I was going to go work at Kohl's as an associate. So I don't want to hear it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Gets me back on track. Or, I start listening to writing podcasts or reading blogs from other authors, discussing their own projects, helps me gain some motivation. And then, scripture, biblical references, the word that helps me stay encouraged. This is a process. It's not an overnight thing,
Yeah.
And just know that I can do it, So I do the reward system though, to bring it back around. I do that. I'll go get I'm not a big specialty coffee kind of person, but I'll do the tea, the peppermint tea, and I'll actually pay for it instead of making it here at the house.
Right.
I'll actually leave my house and go get it.
Yeah.
Or, go to lunch with a friend or something,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I covered it. I think I did it.
Yeah,
Hey.
I think so. So what do we have a blog for people that want to write a book. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, gosh, I think we posted the blog article, last year. And it's specifically about writing a book. And in that blog article gives you some tips that kind of cover what we talked about in the goal stuff in a roundabout way. I don't specifically say these, measurable goals and blah, blah, blah. But if you want to write a book, it gives you some information you should be thinking about so that as you are listening to this podcast, maybe on replay, you can recall, hey, I want to write a book. So what do I need to do to write a book? Now I need to put goals to it, and those goals need to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound, as we talked about. So you can find that article by going to my author website, JeannineBennett.com. So you want to write a book, pretty easy. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh, and we are going to be doing another podcast in 2 weeks' time. So join us on Thursday, January 27th, for what you can do when you don't feel like writing, what you can do to work towards the goal of publishing your book and getting your book ready to go when you don't actually feel like doing the writing part. So there's a lot of things that you can do. So if you are catching this episode late, no worries. You can watch the replay by going to Jeannine's website at JeannineBennett.com/podcasts. Thanks for joining us today. And Jeannine, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered everything we set out to cover today. Yeah, I think that's it. What do you think, Mel?
I think this sounds good.
Good?
I think so.
Good. So we stuck to the topic pretty much this time. I didn't get carried away with my tangents like I can. So thank you for holding me accountable.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. Oh, go ahead.
I'll just say, we'll see you next time.
Yeah. a little dramatic, but okay.
You just listening to the audio, there were jazz hands involved.
All right, friends. Take care. Have a good rest